on this spot we're going to be having a look at X-Men Classics Cyclops with Optic Blast Action. It also includes two LR44 replaceable button cell batteries. So that's very nice, because you know, half the time, at least in the figures that I've picked up, half the time you don't tend to get the batteries included. So it is nice that they actually have thrown them in. Before we actually look at the batteries and we look at the figure, let's get a look at the packaging. I have to actually say, having seen the X-Men, X-Men 2, and X-Men 3, X1, X2, X3 figure packaging, which I thought was very bland, I have to say that this is a pleasant surprise to see the packaging on this figure. It does very much resemble in the Spider-Man Classics packaging. Now, granted, it's different. It's Wolverine versus Spider-Man, so many of you guys will be thinking, no, it doesn't resemble it at all. But stay with me. It does still feature, if you've seen my Spider-Man Classic reviews, on the sides would be red, and then you've got the spider symbol on both sides. And in this case, the X-Men, or the Wolverine packaging here, it's got the X's running down the side, and in the middle would have been Spider-Man. And of course, in the middle in this packaging, it's Wolverine. So even though it's different, still very, very much the same. You see, we're not different after all, guys. We do have lots of similarities. But anyways, nice packaging. I like the blue. I think the Wolverine looks really, really nice on the front there. And on the bottom here, we get a picture of Cyclops with his weapon. On the back of the packaging gives a nice picture of the same Wolverine, and it says a new breed of men has emerged. They are the children of the atom, Homo superior. Yeah, I said Homo superior, that's right. Individuals gifted with strange and fantastic abilities simply by virtue of their genetic makeup. Many of these mutants believe they should rule, and that open conflict with the human majority is inevitable. Hated and feared by those they've sworn to protect, a group of these mutants known as the X-Men stand in defense of a world on the brink of genetic war. Very interesting. On the side here, it shows how to install the batteries. And then down below we've got the gimmick for the character. I'm actually looking forward to trying out the gimmick. I haven't actually seen it yet. And then the other characters in the wave are a pretty decent Wolverine, if you ask me. For not being a Marvel Legends, I think that's a pretty good Wolverine. I don't know what the face is. The face might be a little sillier in person, but pretty good nonetheless. There is also the Gambit, which I picked up. And then we have the Cyclops. A pretty decent Wolverine, for surprisingly enough. I mean, I don't like the Unlimited, the Ultimate X-Men line, but I actually like this Wolverine. I think it's pretty good. And then we have an Archangel. I didn't get the Archangel. I did actually see him, but the face seems a little off for me. But there you have packaging. Let's get this guy opened up, and we will get a closer look at the leader of the X-Men, Cyclops. And so here we have Cyclops out of his packaging. A little bit of a disappointment for you guys. Unfortunately, the good folks at Toybiz, who do awesome toys, it's a shame they don't do Marvel Legends anymore. This packaging, they released this 2004. You guys can see there. Unfortunately, very similar to my Terminator 3 battle pack. I think the pack that had the T-850 and the Terminatrix with the helicopter scene. Very similar to that. The bad news is the batteries are installed, but as you'll see, no light up functions, and which means I'm going to have to go and probably find some new batteries. But I still will do the review on this guy, and then when I get this changed up, I'll do a review, an update, so you guys can see it in action. Before we actually look at the accessory that he comes with, we get a closer look at Cyclops here. I have to say I really, really like this Cyclops. This is probably my favorite Cyclops look, at least. And I think when I really started getting into X-Men, I got into X-Men before it as well, but when I really got into X-Men was during the 90s Jim Lee run, and Jim Lee had pretty much reinterpreted all the figures, or all the characters. So Cyclops, instead of having the hood, had his hair with the the visor and everything else, and then Professor X, instead of having a wheelchair, it was kind of like a yellow hover kind of chair. And that, I think, is still my favorite look for the X-Men. And it's a real shame, though, that in the way of Marvel Legends, they've never released, I think, really true to, you know, to how they looked in the comics, accurate figures for them. This is probably the only way right now that you're going to be able to get a Jim Lee style Cyclops. And it has downsides, but I think overall the figure, I think, has more things going for it than it does against it. You get loads of articulation, being that it's a Toybiz. Now granted, it's not, you don't get a ball joint in the head, it's just a swivel joint. There is articulation in the shoulder, in the bicep, in the elbow, in the forearm, and then also in the hand. You'll also notice that his fingers are in the, whoops, he almost picked his nose, in the point that you can actually have him pointing at, touching his visor. Optic blast, optic blast. He also has articulation in the torso, also in the waist. He has articulation in the leg, the knee, 2 points in the knee. He has articulation in the foot and also in the toe. So you still get the wide range that you would normally get with a Marvel Legend. But I really like the look of the figure. If you actually had the figure in front of you, he has a very interesting feel. Like the plastic doesn't feel... I don't think it feels like a regular Marvel Legend plastic. It feels a little bit different. It doesn't feel cheap or anything like that. Now his gimmick, you'll notice there's 2 peg holes on the back. There's also 2 pegs on this unit. The idea is he comes with what I think is a pretty decent looking gun turret, kind of, if you want to call it that. I mean, it would be nice on a display because it kind of looks like something from the Danger Room. The idea is you would peg his feet onto the base here, and then on the back you just peg those 2 pegs into his back here. And then once you've got them all positioned, watch the magic. There's a little lever on the bottom side here, and when you swing this lever across, what he should have done was he would rotate and his visor would light up, and then this explodes. So when you rotate it, Yahtzee! It's a bit underwhelming just because his visor doesn't light up, but if it did light up, then you get the full effect of it. I'll just move those pieces aside now. Now, as much as I did like the figure, the one downside to the figure is that you'll notice the figure itself is rather skinny, scrawny. And just to give you guys a size comparison, what I'm talking about here, I'll put Cyclops here, and I'll bring in one of his fellow X-Men teammates. We'll bring in Wolverine. Now this Wolverine is from the Hasbro Marvel Legends line, the Red Hulk line. As you can see, Wolverine should be a little smaller, and his build, Cyclops' build, is a lot smaller. So it would have made sense if Cyclops was about maybe here, and then a little broader. But I definitely will say until Hasbro, and I'll move Wolverine out of the way here, until Hasbro can release a Jim Lee style Cyclops, this is the only way you're going to be able to get this figure. And so for that reason, I would say definitely pick it up. And if you can overlook the fact he's a little scrawnier than what he should be, I think overall though it's a decent looking figure, quite a decent looking figure. But there we had X-Men Classics Cyclops, and I hope that hit the spot. I'll see you guys next time. Optic Blast!